Hi, I'm Kathy Rushing, host of the podcast Committed, the Entrepreneur Marriage. If your middle name is Restless and you identify with words like innovator, dreamer, changemaker, creative, independent, or you are married to an entrepreneur, or heaven help you, you're both entrepreneurs, this podcast is for you. The entrepreneurial journey can be a little wild at times, like uncharted territory. Join me as I talk with others who are at various stages of the entrepreneur process. We'll explore the wisdom and insights they have gained while navigating the ups and downs of the entrepreneur journey. You'll discover that there are many couples who have found ways to thrive in both their marriage and business. How do two strong-willed, competitive people thrive for 33 years of marriage? By wrestling, of course. Yep, that's what they said. Nathan and Dianne Baxter joined me today, and boy, did we cover a lot of ground. Their career paths seemed to be an unlikely fit when they fell in love. But as love would have it, they found they had more in common than they realized. Nathan started his career as a youth pastor, then began to focus more on life coaching. After 20 plus years on a church staff, he launched Lead Self, Lead Others, a coaching and consulting business. Dianne has successfully built a Mary Kay business fueled by her passion to empower women to achieve their potential. Their shared passion for life coaching culminated in the recent release of their book, Real Coaching Success: What It Takes to Be an Excellent Coach and Build Your Business. Dianne and Nathan share insights about how they found ways to stop fighting against each other and get on the same team. They talk about communication, scheduling, parenting, personality differences, and finding a rhythm when working from home, which they've done for at least 20 years now. Many thanks to our mutual friend, Mike Loomis, for introducing us. Nathan and Dianne Baxter, I want to welcome you to Committed, the Entrepreneur Marriage Podcast. How are you guys doing today?
We are great because this is the last thing on our agenda, and then we're free for the weekend.
Woohoo! It's one thing that makes Friday different, I guess. Anymore it's like, people have joked about buying underwear again that has the days of the week just so that we know the days of the week because
Yeah.
one just rolls into the other. Awesome. Well, I'd love to get a little snapshot of the Baxter family. How long have you guys been married?
33 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. And do you guys know many couples that are in your cohort?
We know one or two.
Not many.
Most of our friends are on their second or third marriage, but we do have two that are still married. So you know how it is. The longer you go, we're kind of outlasting everybody.
Yeah.
And now it's probably been married too long to turn back. So
Exactly.
just gonna,
We don't want to start over.
right.
Yeah.
And tell us about your family.
So we have two grown boys. Our oldest is Will, and he is married to Emily. And they have a 1.5-year-old daughter, Hadley, our granddaughter, Hadley Jane Baxter. And then our other son, Connor, is married to Allie. And they have 3-year-old little girl, Ramsey.
Show them their middle name.
Ramsey Snow Baxter. A
Oh,
1-year-old boy, Gunnar Cove Baxter. And both boys and their wives are expecting babies this coming April and July. So we have grandbaby number 4 and number 5 on the way.
Yeah.
oh, that is a wonderful place in life. And do they live nearby?
So we're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they both live in the Dallas and Frisco area. So they're basically 4-hour drive from us, which is not bad.
Okay. Yeah, it could be worse. Have you guys been able to see them during the pandemic?
We have. We rarely go a month to 6 weeks without going to Dallas. I've got business down there. We love staying with them so they can go out to dinner and we can hang out with the grandkids. We've had them here during COVID. They've actually come up and just worked out of the house with us. So we're very, very fortunate that it's only 4 hours.
That's so great. And I think you said y'all live in Tulsa, right? How long have you lived there?
We are lifelong Tulsans. We both graduated from high school here. We went to college just down the street an hour. Um, and then most of our career has been in Tulsa. We had an 8 year stint in Kansas City, but for the rest of the time, we've been right here. So we love our little town, and we know just about everybody, I think.
Mhm.
That's great to have that long-term community.
Mhm.
Yes.
So I'd like to shift to a couple of questions that I have found a fun way to get to know you both. If your team, I'm sorry, if your marriage was a team sport, what would it be?
So my answer is wrestling.
Oh, goodness.
It's such I know people wouldn't expect that probably, but both boys wrestled. Connor went even wrestled into college. Um, I love it. It is a team sport, but a wrestler gets out on a mat against his opponent that's the same weight. It's a level playing field, and if he wins, then he contributes points to the team. So in my head, my coaching style is very different than Nathan's, but it's just as important. And whatever I do contributes to our team results, just like when he coaches in a very different style, that still contributes to the team results. So that's kind of how I saw that. Yeah.
Okay, great. How about you, Nathan?
Well, I picked the same sport.
Y'all really are on the same team.
But for very different reasons. I picked wrestling because it reminds me of our marriage in the past, where we really did wrestle against each other. Um, I wouldn't say we had rough years, but we had ongoing tension throughout our marriage, and we realized we're wrestling against each other instead of doing something together. So we really started working on how can we not compete against each other. And so when I think of wrestling, I know those guys are out there trying to pin the other one, which is exactly what I was trying to do in the early years. Now it's kind of more like she's my sparring partner. So we're different. We push on each other, but we sharpen each other. We make each other better. But we've had to learn
Well,
to
to
do that.
appreciate each other's
Yeah,
differences.
Yeah. What was there something that was pivotal in that realization?
I wouldn't say it wasn't any one thing, but I do remember both of us saying we're tired of getting tired of disagreeing. It's
Mm,
getting old.
mhm.
And it can be anything from how to discipline to sandwich. I mean, we're just so different. We rarely get on the same page. So we started going to marriage conferences, marriage books. Our pastor helped us, and we
Mhm.
really worked hard at communication. And that's when the ship got turned in the right direction.
Mm.
Yeah.
When our daughter was little, I often tell this story. I would read fairy tales to her, and how do they end up? And they lived happily ever after. And I would look at her and say, "Sweetie, that's not really how it goes. They worked very hard at their relationship."
Yeah,
Good.
yeah,
And it sounds like you guys were insightful enough to recognize that along the way, part of how you got to 33 years. What is a book or a person that has affirmed your approach to life, including marriage, parenting, friendship, all of life? So there might be more than one book or person.
yeah. Two people for me. One guy named Dave Jewett, your1degree.com is his ministry. But Dave, in my mid 20s, um, took me out for breakfast. I thought I was in trouble because I was a youth pastor. Youth pastors are always in trouble. Um, but he just took me out to breakfast and wanted to be a friend. He's 15 years older than I am. So I just knew I'd done something wrong. But, and we tell this story in the book that he just wanted to be my friend.
Hmm.
And so that was 30 some years ago, and we still meet. We chatted this Monday. We're reading a book together. And so he was very influential in self leadership, spiritual vitality, interviewing for jobs, marriage, birthing children. He's been there through my entire life. And then our pastor, Brother Paul, was very helpful in our marriage because he was very straightforward with us. He recognized our, our radical differences. And matter of fact, before he would marry us, he made us work through some very tough issues, or he wasn't going to do the ceremony. And we had a couple of times there where we didn't think we were going to come up with the right answer. So, and then after that, he was just such a great mentor to our marriage. After that,
Okay, so I'm going to pick two too. First, I'm going to say my parents. My mom and dad are fortunately still with us, 63 years marriage strong. So
Wow.
has been a constant role model there. And then they affirm us all the time, have through the years, whether it be our parenting, encouraging us when we would want to step out and do new things, start this company. They were always our number one support and have always affirmed us. And then kind of thinking back, like you were saying, honey, early as young marrieds, we started a small group Bible study. And to this day, two of the girls from that study, so we have been walking live probably 30 years. My two best friends, Donna and Lisa, we call each other the Yayas.
Ah,
We all live here and we make time for each other, and we spur one another on and how we are doing as wives, parenting, now grandparenting, and affirming each other to, keep the high road, keep the high standards that we live by with biblical principles. And so to have those two women in my life is very special.
that's very rich too, to have both of you to have friendships
mm-hmm.
that are that long lasting. What three words would you use to describe your partner? You've said, Nathan, that y'all are so different. So, how do you describe each other?
For me, independent is one of the qualities I fell in love with and am still in love with. That she has her own life, her own ideas, her own goals, and then we have our mutual. But I really like an independent person, and Dianne for sure is that. She's extremely kind, and it doesn't matter who she's in front of. Um, she's going to be kind to that person. And then she's a little wild, a little fun, a little crazy. Everybody thinks I'm the nut job, but what they don't know is half the time it's her idea, or so she loves spontaneity. She loves saying why not. She'll try just about anything I throw at her, and that's a lot of fun.
And is that one of the areas where you guys are different?
Um, well, I'm pretty spontaneous
Yeah,
as well and crazy.
I'll answer that because it goes into my three and you.
Yeah, we definitely are different.
Yeah.
There's no question.
So, for example, a word to describe Nathan would be organized. Hence, I'm disorganized. Our desk is totally different. His is always clean by the end of each workday. My piles just keep piling.
Around the house.
So I am a moving desk. I move around the office, around the house to work.
She in this new house we have, she had a wonderful office that she never used. She just used the kitchen. I don't know why.
Well, or I'll change up where I sit with a computer and a phone. Then Nathan, I also would describe him as strategic. He's just strategic in anything he approaches. Um, he can take something chaotic and come up with a game plan and a step by step. I mean, that's why he's good with the executives that he coaches and things. So he's very strategic. And then I thought of the word creative too, because he thinks about creative ways. He does not want to do something just because that's how it's done. Maybe there's a different way to do it. Maybe there's a better way to do it. What if we did this? What if we thought about that? And he just gets creative.
I think that's a fundamental characteristic of many entrepreneurs. And maybe you didn't even realize that early on, Nathan, but we'll get into that a little more. Well, thanks for sharing those things. I think it helps us just get a picture of you a little more before we now dive into your story a little bit. And I'd like to hear a little of your backstory. You guys have been married 33 years. And so when you were first married, what type of work were you each pursuing at the time?
So for me, my degree was in marketing, and I worked, at a company in your marketing department. I thought I was going to always work and be a corporate career woman. I loved wearing the suits, the briefcase, the heels. I was going to be the corporate career woman. So that's what I was doing.
And what were you doing, Nathan?
Well, you also need to talk about Mary Kay because that's a very
Okay, so
that's one of the things I thought was cool about it.
so yeah, so when we wanted to start a family, I knew I wanted to be home to raise children. So I started the entrepreneurial piece was I joined Mary Kay Cosmetics, and have I've been doing that for 30 years now. So I've earned 13 career cards. I've been, successful in that, moving up the career path with that. So that was something I got to build on my own and really empower women in that respect.
But you also did it in college, didn't you?
I did.
Because I remember when I first met you, you were telling me about it.
I did it in college. And then I stopped doing it because I was going to do the corporate thing.
Mhm.
And then I thought, I want to have babies and I want to be home with babies. So I'll go back and do Mary Kay again.
Awesome. So, Nathan, you had a little bit of a picture of what you were getting into. What about you, Nathan? What were you doing when you guys first married?
Well, I was going into the ministry. I was a business major, but as soon as I got through college, I was going to head to seminary in Texas. Um, and so when we fell in love, that was a real problem because she really wanted to go corporate. She wanted to work anywhere in the world. You entertained Japan for a while. I thought our whole relationship was done, and I was headed to seminary, non-negotiable. So when we started dating, I wanted to expose her to the life of ministry. So I would take her around the state where I would speak and let her just get exposed to that type of world. And it was received with mixed emotions. She was not too convinced she wanted to marry someone in the ministry, and plus, she wasn't interested in going to seminary with me. So we butted heads pretty quickly.
Yeah, it makes sense now why the man that married you saw these very different career paths.
Mm-hmm.
And 33 years ago, it was a little hard. I don't know that it was harder, but there weren't as many role models of women
Yeah,
with a career, especially married to a man in ministry.
that's
That's
right.
right.
Yeah, we had some challenges over the years with the what they thought Dianne should be like, and she wasn't that at all.
As a pastor's wife.
Right.
When we married.
She's
Right.
a businesswoman.
Mhm.
So how did you guys navigate that?
Oh, we said thank you and just kept turned around and kept going. I mean, we're so independent that we we're very comfortable in what we were doing, and leadership is all about criticism.
Mhm.
You're
Well,
always understood.
yeah, back up to before you got married. and you're
Oh,
heading to seminary, and she wants to go to Japan as an option. How did you
well,
negotiate? Come
uh,
to
arguments, tears, um,
Met with
just
Brother Paul.
distraught because we were in love, but we neither one of us wanted to cheat the other person of their dreams, and so it was just a real tough. We're trying to be
Mhm.
polite and considerate, but we wanted to get married. But I was going left, she was going right.
I yeah, and really, I just think through prayer for me, I realized, okay, I don't want to go to Japan. I'll find a job here in Tulsa because you had started as a youth pastor, and we're going to do seminary.
Yeah,
You can stay in Tulsa and do seminary at OBU through Southwestern Baptist Seminary. That scenario, we figured out a way for you to work in Tulsa and me to work in Tulsa.
right.
You still start your seminary, and that's how we could start our life. And we both felt good about that.
so you found a way to really get to a win-win, it sounds like.
Yes.
Well, what happened was is the seminary opened up an extension program, and so that immediately became the solution. We saw a way out at that point,
Mhm.
but up until then, a little rough.
And you all have just released a book called Real Coaching Success: What It Takes to Be an Excellent Coach and Build Your Business. So clearly, your career has evolved, Nathan. Tell us a little bit about how did you begin to see that you were an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think I've always been an entrepreneur. If you look back over my track record as a pastor, some of the things I tried were high risk, no guarantee. I drove some of the guys in my church nuts, um, but I didn't know what to call it back then. I just thought I was being resourceful, but definitely had entrepreneurial bent. But I was in ministry for 28 years full time, and somewhere in a reflective moment, I admitted to myself, I don't think I can do this another 20 years. There's so much about church work that I did not enjoy. And I just couldn't see myself doing it with integrity for another 20 years. And that began a 2-year conversation with Diane and I about, so what would you do? And I had no answers, but I just knew it wasn't this.
Hmm.
And so where we landed on is I really want to have conversations with leaders. That's what I enjoy the most. To try and encourage them, guide them, challenge them, be a confidant, trusted advisor. So we said, okay, how can we do that and actually pay the rent? Do people pay for this? And so over the 2-year period, we just started experimenting. We go into that in the book where it was just something I did for free. It was never meant to make money. It's just something I was passionate about. And then we ended up saying, well, maybe we can charge for this. And then the rest was history after that. So we launched the business, and within 3 or 4 months, we had generated enough revenue that we felt comfortable resigning. So we went to the elders, we explained the whole story, and they were our number one fans. Um, they even gave us 4 months paid salary and insurance to help me launch the business.
Wow.
So
That's
we
very gracious.
Oh, we
Mhm.
were we were floored.
Mhm.
We were
Very generous.
So we stayed in the church another year just to make sure that there weren't any miscommunications or misunderstandings, and we wanted to be a support to them. But
Yeah.
the business really took off once you know, got serious about it. It just flourished, and we haven't looked back since.
Yeah. Again, that affirmation, so important when you find what really lights up your purpose and get up every day. You talk a little bit in the book about starting some coaching. You met with a lot of different people, it sounded like. but did not charge them. And coming from a ministry background where well, let me back up. Mark and I started in ministry also, and his dad was in ministry. And there's kind of a mindset of poverty, like
Yes. Yeah.
uh, it's not okay to make money. Now, not all denominations are that way, but that was our experience. Was we we wanted to serve and help people. So I would love to hear a little more about what that transition was like for you guys to begin to affirm your own worth in terms of, I can make a living doing this. I can charge people. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Well, did you read the whole story? Because it's kind of humorous in the book, you know. So um, it was a big issue for me. I think of the money changers in the temple, and Jesus got after them pretty strong because they were making
Mhm.
a buck. Uh, and I thought, you just cannot charge people when you're using your gifts. That doesn't mesh with me theologically. But I was doing it because I loved it. I was good at it. People were getting helped. So I just kept doing it on the side until an incident happened where a man said, "I'm going to pay you for your services." I told him, "Well, I don't charge," but he gave me an envelope and he insisted that I take it, and it was a check for $500, and that blew my mind. But what he told me, he said, "Look, guys like me pay guys like you, and we can't find enough good ones. You're good at what you do. You're fair. You gave me sound advice, and you probably made me a lot of money. So there's nothing wrong with charging people a fair price for a fair product or a fair service." And that something happened in my mind. It clicked because he said, "I'm going to hire somebody, so might as well be you."
Right.
And that's when I began to understand the market and the industry that I was approaching, and that you can be fair, you can have integrity, and maintain your Christian values.
Mhm.
Um, but that was one incident where I flipped the switch for me.
Yeah. Have you helped walk some other people, either of you? Because you're both coaches also. Uh, can you think of any stories where you've maybe walked someone else through that struggle?
Yeah, we've got 9 on our coaching staff, and 5 of us are former pastors or current pastors. So I've had to have this exact conversation with them, and I get it and I respect it. And I've had to help them understand that there is a market for this. Um, but I get their dilemma. It took me a while to get over it.
Mhm. Do you
Doesn't bother
still
me
Oh, that was gonna be my next question was, do you ever still struggle with it?
now. No, not at all.
Awesome. How do you make space and support each other? You mentioned earlier wrestling being an example of a sport that might represent your marriage. And you started this company how many years ago?
Lead Self, Lead Others was formed.
2010.
No, that's when we launched it. The company
Oh,
started 2 years prior to us resigning the church. So it's been out making money for 12 years, but we went out on our own in 2010, January. So
Okay.
10 years.
Okay.
Good enough.
And tell us a little bit about Diane, how you became involved as a coach also. You said you have a very different coaching style than Nathan, and you are very successful with Mary Kay. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you became a coach.
for me, I think it just evolved through my Mary Kay business as women would be a part of my Mary Kay organization, and there would be those who would say, "I want to really build a full time Mary Kay business," because most do it part time, but when they voice they want to build it more, so to become a full time, like how I have run it, it took some coaching. I needed to really teach them what they need to do, what that looks like, and because it changes what their daily, intentionalities look like, and how do we do this and build your business while you're still a mother, a wife, bring the family along, not
Mhm.
alienate. So I just really began coaching my key players, my key people through the years. So that's where I've spent most of my time. And so that's very relational. My style is very relational. I really want to know her. I want to know her dynamics in her home with husband, with kids, because all those things are pulling on her as she's also trying to add this new piece to her daily life of building a Mary Kay business and the angst that can go with that. And so, and I love women. I love empowering women.
Mm.
That's a heartbeat for me too. It was even ministry, whether women's Bible studies or, I love encouraging women in their roles.
Mhm. So did you find yourself coaching even before Nathan was, or did this develop concurrently, or
Well, she's been coaching almost from day one, in my opinion, almost from day one. We just didn't call it that. But now
okay.
that I
Yeah.
really studied what coaching is, and I take that framework and I looked at what she did, that's exactly what she was doing. I was doing it in church, inside the church, but with my leaders and my staff that worked for me. Of always trying to develop them, always trying to challenge them. So we just didn't find the coaching word.
And so I was always coaching what we'd call volunteers. I mean, I'm coaching women in Mary Kay, but sometimes you were coaching people, they were employed and paid to
Yeah, they had
listen to you. They had to meet with
they
you.
had
They
the
had to
attention.
listen. Mine don't. It's their own independent business, and
So there's a lot more motivation, and it's certainly easier to coach someone that wants coaching, right?
Correct.
yes.
I put that in the book as well. That some of my staff members said, "Why do we have to meet with you so much?"
I don't
Right.
wanna do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I noticed in the book that you use the Berkman as, a way to, have a clearer picture of kind of how a person is wired. Did you look at other profiles, or how did you come to use the Berkman?
Well, I was familiar with Taylor Johnson, uh, DISC, Strength Finders, and a few others. And I didn't pay that much attention to assessments, to be honest with you. But my pastor, when I was an executive pastor, came to me and he said, "You really need to grow professionally. You've got some blind spots." And so he hired a coach to work with me, and that coach took me through the Berkman.
Okay.
So I was 3 pages in, and uh, a very serious insight came through the pages of the Berkman about my personality, and it unlocked a lot of relationships for me. And so it, I think I flew down 3 months later to Houston, got certified myself. It was that much of a life changing experience.
Mhm.
And so then I just started, anybody that worked for me, anybody we were going to interview, if I was discipling someone, I would take them through the Berkman experience, and then it's just stuck with me all these years.
Mhm. Do you use it also, Diane, or do you have a different tool that you use?
I don't have a different tool. If I use an assessment, it is the Berkman.
Okay. I'm curious how it impacted your relationship with each other and did you take it at the same time, Diane, when
No,
Nathan took it?
back from being certified when we went to Houston to get certified, I was like his first guinea pig.
Okay.
Let me have you take it, and let's talk about you. And that was good and bad. I mean, you tried to coach me, and it's like, okay, I'm your wife.
This isn't gonna work.
Here's someone who love me better, says so right here. But it seriously, that tool took our
It
marriage
did.
quantum leaps.
because you can mix the reports. So it helped me understand him better, and it helped him to understand me better. So when we did those, what they call mixed reports, that was
Well,
phenomenal.
what I tell couples now, because we've done hundreds of couples, this will help you have a guided conversation with someone you're very close to, talking about topics you normally don't talk about. But that it's all embedded in our relationship. We just don't know it. So the Berkman isolates different components of your personality and it explains to you in detail. And so you have slower conversations, understanding conversations about the person. You ask questions you never asked before. And so your understanding of each other, just for us anyway, it grew quantum leaps. It
Hmm.
was amazing.
Do, can either of you think of an example of something that was a bit of an aha moment for either of you?
I think you should tell her about when one of your very intense needs was to be alone, and that kind of rocked your world.
Yeah. So I think of myself as a people person. I can walk into a room and I don't know anybody, and I'm going to go around and introduce myself, meet people, and converse. Um, but the Berkman explained, and it's something I knew, but I didn't know how to put words to it. That when I'm going to be around a lot of people for a length of time, I actually need to have alone time prior to that and then post that, or else I get really exhausted and then I get irritable, you know. So I really had to learn how to make that kind of time for myself and not feel guilty. Even expressing I need some alone time. Even when we vacation, we now know my one of my favorite things is to have one full day to just go walks, shop, coffee shop. I just want a day to myself
Yeah.
to read, contemplate, ex- go around and just explore the town. It's
Yeah.
fun. And then I want just as much of that time with him, but I need that.
Boy, and that's so important to have that awareness.
Mhm.
What this is a hypothetical question, but what difference do you think that would have made at the beginning when you knew that you were very different? What would it have meant to your relationship to have those insights earlier?
I can't even imagine.
I would have been.
I can't even imagine.
It would have been.
I mean, if we could show you our reports, you would just visually you can see these two people. Wow, there's no way they could work together or live together or be together. It's
Here's
just so different.
here's a great example of our early in our marriage. He's a youth pastor. I'm working my corporate job. I would get up and leave the house at 7 in the morning. He hadn't left yet for church. So I would always leave before he left, for work. And then I would get home, 5:36, make a quick dinner. And then I'm always at the church, youth groups, sleepovers, all the youth stuff. I'm trying to be at anything and everything as the youth pastor's wife. And one Sunday morning, he got up and I said, I'm not going to church. And he's like, what? I go, I'm not going. I'm tired. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm done. I just was, and
Yeah.
he would do it that. And I didn't know either, but I just knew that's how I was feeling. But had I known this about myself, we both would have known for me not to be at every time the church doors were open. I did not need to be there, but I
Right.
was.
That works for
And
some people, it didn't work for you. And
so
it
we,
and it didn't make you a less spiritual person.
Yeah, but I think I said the opposite at first.
Mhm.
I used the scripture or two on her, I think once.
And then she put you right back in your place, huh?
She no,
he,
she didn't go to church. So after 4 weeks, she can only have the flu so long. I'm trying to go to church where Diane is.
and you went to Brother Paul, and he told you you were a fool.
Yeah, so finally I went to get some counsel. I told my pastor this whole story and what her problems were, and she needs help. I don't know how to help her, and when I was done, he just said, "You are the dumbest man on planet." That was his exact words. "You are the dumbest man on planet Earth." And so, yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, because we've hired you, not your wife. We've hired you. She does not need to be
Yeah.
there every time something's going on with the youth or the church.
What a smart man. I wish there were more pastors like that. Oh my goodness. Well, your work now with individuals is transformative, I know, for many people, and you've addressed that you do work with some couples. So tell me a little bit, or let's talk about, is there a role for coaching couples in their relationship, and what does that look like?
For sure. Like I said, we've at a minimum probably have coached 100 couples. I'm 58. In my mid 60s, that's probably what I'm going to focus on is coaching couples using this Berkman tool.
Mm.
Um, right now, I've got so much stuff going in consulting and with executives. I don't want to make space for that, but that's because it's so much fun. You know, when you do a workshop, you got 10 couples out there poking each other in the ribs and they're laughing, but then they're crying, and you're watching their marriage get healed or enhanced or repaired. That's very very rewarding work.
Mhm.
What?
In the meantime, we might try that podcast
Yeah,
geared toward couples.
yeah. We're thinking about the podcast to kind of demonstrate our differences, but also share how we've been able to make it work. You know, we've been kicking around the idea. So
Cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
So when you've worked with couples, it sounds like it's maybe more of a workshop setting?
all the above. The My favorite way to do it is privately,
Mhm.
and because you get so much more story conversation, your impact on their relationship is so much more powerful. So the way I do it is I work with one spouse to help them really understand themselves, and then independently I work with the other spouse, same thing. And when I feel like they're ready, I bring them together and we swap notebooks.
Hmm.
And then I begin to say, I want you to ask him about this, and I want you to ask her about that. And I kind of know where to point them, and I guide their conversation around those areas. And it's very powerful to watch people who love each other finally have some tools to kind of get some breakthroughs.
Yeah. And how do you assess, like, let's say a couple approaches you, how do you assess whether they need counseling or coaching?
Uh, Counseling, the couples that I have sent to counseling are ones that are stuck, and they're still stuck in the past, and they can't get unstuck. They can't unlive something. And a counselor needs to do the work to go in and do the repair. Um, my my role really comes into place where they're not stuck, but they just need some guidance on how to make it even better. They need to set new goals, think about the future. Coaching really is reserved for a future thought versus repairing of the past. So we always at Lead Self Lead Others, we always have 3 or 4 counselors that we're in relationship with, so that when we sense that they're not ready for coaching, we get them to see a therapist.
That's a good clarification. Have you guys always worked from home?
Well, I mean, once you started the company, we have. Once he left ministry to start lead self
Mhm.
lead others, we because I've always worked from home with my business. Yeah.
Let's just say it was a little crowded at first.
So what were some strategies that you guys found worked for you? May not work for everyone, but what are some things you did to create space for each other and honor your workspace?
Well, the one thing we had to get down is we had to communicate schedules.
Yes.
Who's cooking? Who's going to the ball game? who's getting groceries, who's cleaning, who's got a, I mean, we got very aggressive on literally going to a coffee shop, pulling out our calendars, and we would go day by day communicating who's got, and giving out different assignments and negotiating assignments. That's the first thing I tell a couple is if you're having children trying to run businesses, you better become an expert communicator on schedules or you will back into each other very, very quickly, like we did.
Or everybody goes hungry.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Right.
thought you were cooking dinner. No, I thought you were cooking dinner.
My other thought too is just some strategies too. Deciding when the office is closed.
Ah,
You know, are you on right now? Or are you off? You know, and you have to be able to just kind of mentally shut off work. Now it's just family time. You know.
right, right. Or can I interrupt and come to you with this question?
Mhm. Mhm.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's, it's, first of all, I recommend it. I love working with my mate in the same house, but it is not for the faint of heart. You have to really take your partnership to the next level. Unless you just want to fight all the time or never talk to
Yeah,
each other.
yeah. This door closed means I don't wanna talk to you, but honey, it's been closed for a month. Well, and I think the challenge of the time we're living in is that so many couples are finding themselves at home, and that was never their
Yeah.
Yeah.
desire, or maybe there's some cracks in the relationship already, and this 24/7 with no way to leave and not no way, I mean, we have a few ways to leave, but some of the ways that we would just get our own space or time with friends. A lot of
Mhm.
that is just closed to us right now. So,
One of the things that made our little story a little more challenging is pre-COVID. The nature of our businesses, both Diane and mine, is people come through our front door.
mhm.
So we have people in our house every single day. Yeah, our neighbors all think we're doing something weird till we tell them what we do. So she would have women, sometimes up to 6 women, come over to deal with skincare or makeup issues.
Mhm.
I've got a client over here on the other side of the house, and I may have 5 in one day. And she's got customers coming in and out of the door. So in addition to working together, we also have to manage. We got visitors in our house,
Yeah.
and are you going to be over there? Or are you going to be over here? Because you can't fight in front of your customers. Not cool.
What are some things that you guys have done over the years to keep the fun, friendship, and intimacy in your marriage?
Well, we love to travel. That's what first comes to
Mm.
my mind. In the early years, that meant going when my in-laws lived in Angel Fire, New Mexico, where we could stay at their beautiful home for free. I mean, it looks different through the years, but now because we both work from home, we're in the home to travel. We love because you get out of your world, you get out of the house. Sometimes we call them a workcation.
Ah,
We go somewhere else, but we agree that we're going to be there for 5 days. 2 of those 5 days we're working. The other three are going to be play. And sometimes it's nothing but pure vacation. But
yeah.
we're empty nesters, of course, so that opened up some uh, time. So, for example, for me, a year ago, I chose to start golf because Nathan loves golf, and I thought I'm going to pick up golf. So I took lessons, and I love the game. It's competitive, which you tell, but we love our competition things. But now that's a new dimension for us. We love to now travel and take our golf clubs and play beautiful golf courses all over. But that's a new thing for us, and he's thrilled. He always wanted to do that, and now that's one more thing we're doing together. We cook
Cool.
together. We love cook. COVID. I think a lot of people are all probably cooking even more so. We've
Mhm.
always loved to cook. But we love cranking the music, cook together, dance in the kitchen,
Dance.
dance, glass of wine, cooking. It's just fun.
What time is dinner?
Pre-COVID, one of the things that we did, and looking back, was a smart thing. We did it in the beginning for survival, but we have faithfully met at least once a week formally, um, to review goals, review schedules, planning. But we have a formal planning time, and we still do that. Now we do it just about every day in the mornings.
Hmm.
But to communicate well, we had to create space where we could just be together. And over an hour's time, maybe you might get 10 to 15 minutes of really solid communication. And the rest of the time, you're just stumbling around. But we got into a rhythm of always meeting at least once a week
Hmm.
in a formal communication session. And that was, and all of our family knows about it. So they would joke about, you guys having your business meeting. That's what we call it.
Ah,
Um, and then what we're doing today is, like she said, we agree at what time we close the office, and that means both of us are off together. Otherwise, I just work all the time or think about work all the time.
sure.
Checking your cell phone. No cell phones at the table, dinner table, things like that. Just you can do that social media stuff, and it really interrupt quality family time.
Right, right. It's gotten to be a bad habit, I think, for a lot of people. Like, put their cell phone away and they really think they can't survive without it.
Mhm.
But we actually negotiate. So like if we go out by the fire or on the front porch, we'll say, "Are we doing cell phones or no cell phones?"
Okay.
So we say it out loud, and if
Mhm.
one of us starts getting on their phone, we call each other out and say, "Are we doing cell phones or not doing cell phones?" And we just say it. Or if she needs to have her cell phone and it's supposed to be, no cell phone time, she'll say, "Hey, look, I'm expecting a call, or I need to text my mom." But she'll let me know she's just not over there doing something. But she'll communicate that to me, and that makes it so much easier.
Yeah. I hear a pattern that's evolved over the years of being very respectful of each other and not assuming anything, by verbalizing things, saying it out loud,
Yeah.
we can have a much clearer understanding. No room for wondering. Yeah. Have you guys been able to travel at all since COVID? I know you said you go down to Dallas area. Is that the
We
extent or
Yeah.
we just got back from Cabo.
Oh, wow. Yay, you.
We did. We did.
We travel every other month. That's our rhythm, because we go stir crazy working and living from the same four walls.
Yeah.
And our we have learned that our edge and our impact diminishes significantly if we don't travel about every other month, sometimes 3 months. COVID threw a wrench in that.
Mhm.
But if,
Yeah.
if
We just
people that
canceled
work
a
from
trip.
home, I think it's important to get out of your space. Even if you have to work, just go work somewhere else.
Mhm.
So we stayed true to COVID up until 3 weeks ago. We finally went to Cabo for a week.
Oh, fantastic. And have you done your coaching online then, or do you do any in person or
100% Zoom. I say that I've got 3 guys that are coming over, but a lot of my business is across the United States anyway.
Mm, okay.
Um, so we're pretty zoomed up at the moment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's kind of we're
Same.
living.
Yep.
That gets old too, doesn't it? So thank you very much for accommodating this, one more virtual meeting. But I sure have enjoyed visiting with you guys. And before we wrap up today, is there anything we haven't covered that you would like to add?
I would say, of course, I'm thinking of my 2 guys who are new in their
That's what
marriage.
I was going to talk about.
Really?
Yes.
All right. You want me to go first?
Yeah. Go
Okay.
ahead.
What I was thinking is, I just, as parents, you kind of have to be careful with your words because if you say too much, they don't hear anything.
Yep.
So you kind of get strategic. The one of the things that I keep depositing to my guys is marriage is everything that you put into it. So keep investing in your marriage. I keep preaching that to them. Invest in your wife, and it will pay off because someday you're going to be on a front porch like me, your dad, and you want to actually like the person sitting beside you. And that's not going to happen if you don't consistently invest. And it pays, I think, long marriage. Not everybody, unfortunately, has been able to have one. But the friendship we have is truly, it's the richest thing I own, I think. It's just a great friendship. And it's all those years of arguing and not talking to each other and crying.
Button heads.
You have no idea.
Oh, I might.
Yeah, you've been married longer than us, right?
40.
40? Yeah. So,
Mhm.
So great. That's so great.
What were you going to say, hon?
Well, I was thinking more of legacy. What you do now when you're raising kids, your kids really are watching and they're really picking up on how you handle yourself, how you do honor one another, respectful toward each other. And then there's very intentional parenting, of course, that we do all the while. So, now it is so much on seeing our boys who are both very strong leaders, very entrepreneurial minded.
Mm.
And it's just fun to see them
Loving their wives.
loving their wives and being intentional in their own marriages and intentional in their parenting. And it's just it's a sweet, sweet season for sure. Just you kind of see like, oh wow, they did catch on to some of those things that we worked hard to implement and train and lead by example, and they're leading themselves well. They're doing lead others. They are leading themselves well as their wives.
That is great to hear. Do you, in looking back, did you have a lot of intentional conversations with the boys about relationships?
Well, life in general, including relationships.
Mhm.
One of the things that I was pretty committed to was I didn't want the guys to see me one way outside the walls and one way inside. So
Mm.
I worked really hard at being very authentic, even in when I wasn't looking so good.
Yeah.
Authenticity, and I think they both commented now that they're older and actually have some good feedback. That's one of the things that have been complimentary on Diane and I is that they had genuine parents, and so they would watch us maybe get upset with each other, but they would watch us repair it as well.
Yeah.
We didn't hide things from the public world.
Right.
We tried to be the same people.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you and I talking about being committed to that principle.
And we would call family meetings. That's what we called them. When we really had something important we needed to discuss as a family
Uh-huh.
and wanted their input, wanted to have a conversation about important, we would call a family meeting. And it was kind of fun that as the boys became high schoolers and college age, they would come home and they would call a family meeting.
Oh, I love that.
They wanted to really discuss, hey, mom and dad, we need to have a family meeting. We're like, okay, what time and where? It's usually in his office. And they have something heavy on their heart or very important. They really want the entire family,
Uh-huh.
to chime in on and pray through. And so we still have versions of that even now as they're married that we engage as an entire family unit. When any couple have a big decision to make, they include all of us in that, and we have family communication regarding big decisions that kids have to make, which is really neat. But that started when they were young in our home.
Yeah. I love that so much. There's some things I learned that I'd like to have a do-over, but you don't get a do-over, but we can learn in this way, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you guys so much, and I look forward to talking to you again. don't know about you, but I am encouraged by every interview I've done for this podcast. I love Nathan and Diane's strategy of traveling every couple of months to break up the routine of working from home. I'm going to have to talk to Mr. Mark about that just as soon as we can travel again. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and give us a rating. Share an episode with someone that you think would appreciate the topic. It all helps get the word out. Next up is a series of conversations that Mark and I recorded as we consider buying a business. This would be a first for us, so stay tuned. We're learning a lot together. You're building a life together. Make it a great one. See you next time.